So I'm just thinking of what it was like to be a Nutty Damien, as my dad called me. The girls of Nutty Dame. And I mean, with the licorice legs, we wore black stockings. We wore the same uniform as the girls ahead of us, but without the big artist tie. We had the little clip-on tie, which you had to remember to take off your blouse before you threw it into the washing machine, or your blouse came out pink and you weren't allowed to wear a pink blouse to school. So that was one of the complications of that uniform. The skirts had to be to the knee. So we would actually have to kneel down. I remember in grade 10, kneeling down beside our desks, all of us. And the nun would walk around to make sure that our uniform skirts touched the floor. And if they did not, and I can still remember whose did and whose didn't, then those girls were told that they could not come back to school until their uniforms were the proper length. So we quickly learned that your uniform skirt can be as long as the nuns wanted it during the day, but as soon as you left school, you quickly rolled it up 2 or 3 times until it was the appropriate length to catch the eye of the Malvern boys walking down the street, and also any of the Neil McNeil boys that were walking the other way, or should be gathered at the Bingham Loop if you were so lucky as to take the buses home with the Neil McNeil guys. The biggest challenge in grade 10 was getting to the cafeteria and back with our jelly cream or lemon cream donut. In that interval between 10:06 and 10:15, when that was our morning break for announcements, and to run to the cafeteria, run to the bathroom, line up, get a donut, get back to our portable before the teacher came in at 10:15. So some of the girls went to the caf, other girls sent a friend to get their donut, and they did things like, taking a basketball and dribbling it around the portable, bouncing, running. Our star basketball player in grade 10 did exactly that thing, and was causing great roars of laughter until we realized that as she was bouncing around the portable to the front side, the teacher was coming in the back door, and she was caught between literally the outside and the inside. So we had to let her know when the nun had left the little back porch and come into the classroom. She was bobbing up and down, looking in the window, and we were giving her high signs, low signs, and then she ran in the back door. One of the girls stood at the back door because it locked, let her in. She snuck to her place in the time between this quite portly nun got from the back of the classroom to the front of the classroom and turned around for prayers. And none of us could laugh, none of us could do anything. Luckily for her, her hair was so well teased, coiffed, and sprayed that it didn't show that she had been racing around like a maniac, and that nun never ever knew, no one knew except those of us in the classroom, what a close call, because of course you could not enter the class after the teacher entered the class. That was absolutely not allowed. And one of the great things about being taught by nuns was they taught us all those little things that made the difference between being just an ordinary kid and being a well-turned-out young lady. So at the end of grade 13, we were very poised, very mature for our ages, very ready to go to university. We were groomed to go to university all the time. We were groomed to go into business at a higher level than staying in the steno pool or being satisfied with a job as a sales clerk. We were encouraged to do much better. We were encouraged to do the best that we could. It was demanded of us that we always do our best. It didn't matter what your brains were like. It didn't matter how smart you thought you were. Being smart had nothing to do with it. Working hard, doing a good job, finishing what you start, meeting deadlines, juggling all the responsibilities that you had. Those were the things that the nuns expected. They dragged me kicking and screaming to that door, and then they kind of put me there, and then from there on I never looked back. It was, in fact, for one of my assignments in university, Sister Corrigan, Mother St. Rita Helen to me, Sister Corrigan was the principal, and I went to see her to ask if I could do my assignment for one of my university courses, to be in the classroom and to observe and to interview, and she had no problem with that. In fact, she encouraged, and what she did for us when we were in high school was to have graduates come back and tell us about traveling around the world, about going to Europe for the summer between high school and either university or nursing school or teachers college to, you know, to study different languages, to work in countries, to go, to join CUSO and go overseas and help families. It wasn't easy. It was a very difficult time being in high school. The work was hard, the work was new, the teachers were exacting. The nuns had expectations that we would not only study and work as hard as we could, but that we would do it in a Catholic, prayerful way, and always keep our faith with us, no matter what we were doing. That was expected, so we never complained, because complaining was considered to be being ungrateful. And they did remind us of the gratitude that we owed to the students who went before us, and to our parents, and to our pastor, and to the Archdiocese, and to ourselves, you know, to be grateful for what we had, but to appreciate that we got there because we worked hard. And then we had, grade 11s were very active in the grade 12 graduation process. So in grade 11, again, a lot of our energies were preparing for hosting the mother-daughter tea, and we were allowed to wear civvies for that, so that was hugely exciting. And what we were going to wear again was a huge dilemma. Planning the menu and serving the tea, and then in grade 12 actually being a guest at the tea was absolutely wonderful. And we had more civvies days in grade 12. So again, I mean, I learned to sew primarily so that I could have clothes to wear for Civvies Day, because some of the girls, the hours we spent poring over patterns and choosing fabrics and figuring out what would look good. And, you know, oh, Mommy, it has to be shorter. Mom, that's too long. That's way too long. I can't possibly go to school with a dress that's below my knees. And so we would have this argument about exactly how short my skirt was going to go. And it was just at the knee. But I had a loose top, and so I rolled it. I knew how to roll skirts up to make them shorter. She did notice, because she said to me on the way home, she said, I thought that skirt didn't fit you too well around the waist. It was quite bulky, I thought. But I had it rolled back down by then. It was the father-daughter dance, and my father didn't dance. And this was a huge problem, impediment to me. I love to dance. And my father didn't dance, and he didn't like going to dances, and he didn't particularly want to go to a dance with me because he didn't dance. And so I had to find a way. I had to find a father to take me to the dance. And so luckily my cousin was in high school with me, and her dad and my dad were brothers. And so I was able to invite myself along with my uncle and my cousin. And we both danced with him at the same time. It was quite hilarious to see. We didn't take turns. We were both out on the dance floor dancing with him. And he was quite a good sport. And because it was my dad's younger brother, he wasn't at all offended. So it's just, we had all kinds of wonderful times. In grade 11, we were in Mother St. Rita Helen's class for Latin, and Mother St. Irene was in the room below. And then in grade 12, I was in Mother St. Irene's homeroom. So those of us who took Latin with Mother St. Rita Helen, she was very aware that we were homeroom in the room that was taught by the nun who spoke that language that we will not mention. And she refused to mention French, she refused to mention our teacher. But there was always this little rivalry between that line. How she taught us to translate Latin so quickly that she had a deck of cards, and she would say, all right now, and this was in our authors class, all right now, reading the passage from Cicero with the speed of English, Jeannette. So I would stand up and start reading the passage, and then she would just pull another card and say, Joanne or Angela. And we would have to pick up where the other one left off. So you had to be reading along in your book, so that if Mother St. Rita Helen called on you, you had to stand up and you had to start reading. I did extremely well in Latin authors in grade 12 and grade 13 because she drilled us and taught us to read Latin and taught us to parse Latin poetry and is it Virgil's dactylic hexameter? I will probably remember. I hope it's not my dying thought, but you know, I do think about old Virgil from time to time. And it was just, she made it so much fun, but she was quite a severe taskmaster. Going into nursing, pharmacology is based on Latin, and so I thanked her, begrudgingly at times, but I thanked her that I knew Latin so well that I had no problem with all of the nursing language, all the pharmacological language, all the abbreviations that are all in Latin in Toronto. But in grade 11, we were playing Beatle music all the time. So we were singing, you know, She Loves You, Yeah, 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 Twist and Shout, All My Lovin', I Want to Hold Your Hand. And one of my classmates in grade 11 had the brilliant idea that she would write new lyrics for some of the Beatles songs. So in Latin, before Mother St. Rita Helen arrived, she started singing, all my Latin I will do for you, all my Latin, Mother, I'll be true. And she sang all of the song, and all of a sudden Mother St. Rita Helen walked in the back door, and this gal was caught at the front singing away all my Latin, and she stopped, and she just, and Mother St. Rita Helen just walked to the front of the classroom and picked up, and she said, I do believe that this is the Latin class, and we will speak that language and no other language. And that was how she dealt with it. But she was kind of smirking, so I wonder if she waited until the song was over before she actually made her full entrance. Anyway, we had a lot of I've now recognized were true feminists long before Gloria Steinem and Betty Friedan and Naomi Wolf, long before they ever wrote a word or spoke anything. The nuns taught the women, the young women that they were teaching, to be self-sufficient, to use their brains, to you know, not settle for less than what was the best for them. And they were only 2 classes for grade 13, and of those, almost all of them went to a professional career. Even if it didn't matter what the career was, it was a career rather than a job. They were thinking careers. They were thinking of, what if you don't get married? What if your husband loses his job? What if you have a family to support? So the nuns taught us from the day we got there to be thinking of the future, not to be wasting our talents, not to be wasting our time, or probably theirs. And to just, and then the story of Marie Bourgeois and how she traveled from France to Canada and back to bring the wards of the king for the I guess the Coeur I guess for the colonists. That had she not taken those risks as a young single woman, we young girls have known of that story. Would we have thought to do anything exciting? Would we have thought to go outside the path? I don't know, because in the 50s and 60s, it was a pretty narrow, well-prescribed life for everybody, you know, and just by example, even the fact that they told us stories of going to their mother house, of leaving their families and leaving home at a very young age, and going into the convent and studying to be nuns and studying to prepare for the life that would take them away from their families forever, and that they would do whatever was needed to be done as a member of the order. That was really profound, to realize that women did that they didn't have to marry, that they didn't have to stay in their same community, go to the same church, you know, do the same things that their mothers had done, or their aunts or their grandparents. So all of those influences that I probably didn't even realize at the time. I hope that the nuns realize the influence they've had. I really do. And a lot of my teachers are still alive, so if they see this, I hope that they'll realize that I've only said the good stuff. And there only is good stuff to say.
Thank you.